Hello, everyone. Elizabeth Heffner, Sapphire Ambassador. Welcome to our Rock Your Purpose book club. We are on chapter 19 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Fabulous book. And this week and next week, we'll be finishing it out. And so I just have been really happy seeing how the chapters just build on one another and how we can work on building our strengths, continuing to build those strengths, and then also fine tune and hone in and do a little bit better on those things that are not necessarily our strongest points. And that also, as we are working together with our leaders, we're really building them up in their strengths as well. So the law of timing, I wanted to start out with the fact that this is the time to be talking to everyone about plexus. This is the time that people are, and we've been saying this for a long time, like I've always agreed with Plexus's mission to give back, that if you're blessed, be a blessing, that the products are going to impact and change the trajectory of our health and financial situation. And then with 2020 being what it has been, these two things are even more important than ever. People are looking for options. They are looking for ways to be able to stay home because their children are studying virtually. They are looking for flexibility in their hours. And there are people that have even quit their jobs because they did not want to work in the community or in a hospital setting or whatever it was because of the germ that is out there. And so people are looking for options. So it is definitely the time to be talking to everyone. And this isn't oh, wait, Plexus has been around for 10 years or it's 12 years. It's going on 13 years. So it's too late to get in on that ground floor. That is absolutely not true. And that is not a lie that I want any of you to pick up and take any hint of believing. Because Plexus started as a breast health company. They became the gut health company. They are now the health and happiness company. They are Plexus worldwide, and they are coming up with new products. So we have our gut health, we have our breast health, we have energy, we have weight loss, we have skincare, and they are not done. They are going to continue to expand their product line. We've heard at several events that Plexus's goal is to be a household name. So that means that we want Plexus in everyone's cupboards for several uses in their home, not just their probiotic. So definitely keep that in mind. They continue to offer and scientifically develop all of these amazing products, and it isn't just one thing. So this is definitely the time. People, what I think the law of timing is super important with is when we are talking to our leaders and helping our leaders grow, because sometimes our leaders need us as their leader to be a friend. Sometimes they need a bit of a kick in the pants. Sometimes they need that questioning so that they can get into their creative brain and come up with their own solutions. And so I think the law of timing really more talks about how we are as leaders than it is about, oh, is this the right time to talk to someone about Plexus? Because yes, the answer is yes. It is always the right time to talk to someone about Plexus. Is it going to be exactly their right time to join? We aren't sure about that, but that is why we reach out with relationships. This is why we get to know people. And this is why our outreach and our communication with those people that we're prospecting is solution oriented. Oh, I noticed you're struggling with X, Y, and Z. Have you ever heard of? Have you considered? Would you like to check out some information? And it does talk a lot about where our maturity is and where our heart is. And I am here speaking to you out of experience that when our heart and our motives and our mindset is in the right place of helping someone, not growing our paycheck, that we are going to continue to grow as a team. So just because you're reaching out to someone doesn't necessarily mean they're ready to join, because they may not have enough information. They may not have come to the same conclusions that we have. but is it okay to talk to them about plexus? Yes. How many times have you talked to somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, we just happened to stumble upon our dream home and we noticed it was for sale. And so we called the number on the sign and we're like, oh my gosh, let's get in. And here they go. They are buying a house, selling their house in like 2 weeks, right? Were they setting out to go drive and find a dream home? No. Were they, was that something they were seeking out? No. But then the opportunity stumbled upon them. And if the realtor or whomever wasn't like, hey, look at these slideshow of this house, or look at this for sale sign of this beautiful property, and drawing attention to that, then it would have been passed by. So our job is to have that for sale sign up. Our job is to have those snippets of this beautiful house of the inside. So this is our advertisement. Like, hey, check out how this probiotic and the triplex combo changed this mama's life. Hey, check out how this program with the lean and the active and MetaBurn and ProBio has changed this person's weight loss journey, how this has changed that for them. So that's our job, is to give those little snippets so that people can see that and go, wait, I guess this is the time. Okay, I'm ready. I didn't join at a good time. It's kind of like having a baby. Like, there is never the like, okay, yeah, it's the perfect time to have a baby. My house is completely how I want it. I'm completely happy in my job. I have enough money in the bank account, da, 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 da. Very rarely are we like, yep, it is the absolute perfect time to have a baby. So many people, oh, well, we're waiting for a better time. We're waiting for a better time. Well, there really is no better time to have a baby. You just kind of have to get into it, have 9 months to prepare, and take it one day at a time, right? I joined when my husband was in school, 4 little kids. I was working full time, already pretty stressed. And I joined in December of all the times. And I joined with what was equivalent to a $199 welcome pack. At the time, it was a different kind of structure with the welcome pack, but that's what I joined with. And it was like, oh my gosh, should I be spending this money? And oh my goodness. But what I found, and this is why, just because it's December does not mean we quit talking to people. But I found, because I was working with my doctor and taking this, that I could pop it all through the triplex, save money, have it shipped to my house once a month instead of piecing things together from Amazon, the health food store, and my doctor's office. So you never know what people need. And so it's our job to give them that option. And really also, we're really dependent on our intuition. And I was just listening to a podcast, Aaron, the guy that you posted about the broken brain podcast or something like that. And he had one on a podcast on intuition, and it was really good. So Aaron, hopefully you're on and you can type it out. Hopefully you're in a position of being able to do so. And he really, really talked about our intuition and how we need to unplug. We need to have time for our brain to relax and think. We need to be outdoors. We need to just be walking and moving and allowing for that intuition to kick in and solve the problem for us, so to speak. So when you have a feeling, I mean, that's what intuition is, kind of. Pray about it. This is my advice. Pray about it and act on it. And you aren't going to make a bad choice, right? But don't discount your intuition. There's Gavin DeBecker has a couple of books on using our intuition, and he talks about how our brain is always seeking out to keep us safe. And so in situations, this is just an example, but in situations where we think, oh, it's okay, I shouldn't be fearful and but inside we're like, nope, this isn't a good idea. We need to listen to the nope, this isn't a good idea. And so I think a lot of times we try to explain away and like, oh, it's okay, it'll be fine. And, we kind of go against our intuition, and we really shouldn't. So also, and when we are talking to people, we want to have a strong vision. So we want to have a strong vision for our teams, for our leaders, for our people joining us, having that strong vision. And so reminding ourselves of our why, and reminding us that our why a lot of us on here, our why is related to how we can help others. Okay. Not necessarily like, well, how many trips can I go on for free? How big of a Lexus can I get for free? But our why is really related to, okay, which ministries can I give to? Or how many people can I help get out of their tough financial spot in order to better their lives? And so just keeping that in mind, having that strong vision, and also being decisive. We don't want to be a wishy-washy leader, because if we're wishy-washy, we're going to produce wishy-washy. You can see this over and over in so many aspects of our life. So keeping that in mind, people need to see a confident leader. Just because you don't always feel confident, you want to be confident. You want to exude confidence, because that is going to allow people to trust you and trust your leadership. And maturity. So there's been a lot of times where I'm like, is Melissa on here? Melissa and I, we were supposed to do a call. We're doing a coaching call. It's probably been about a year ago or so. And she gets on, and she had a horrible day. Like something went wrong with her car, like something broke or a flat tire, this or that. Something horrible happened at work, like just a horrible day. And I was like, okay. And we kind of reviewed a couple things. I'm like, I'm going to let you go. It was not the time to be like, hey, we need to work on this and and don't forget about that. It was not the time. And so just because something needs to be addressed, we need to depend on the timing of when that's going to be appropriate. And that comes too with our motive. Like my motive isn't, hey, I need Melissa to succeed for me. I need Melissa to succeed because that is her goal. And she's not going to be successful having a coaching call that's really intense after a day like that. That is not in her best interest. And just really having a firm grasp on different situations. It's really important that we're aware of what's going on in our back office, helping our people learn how to use their back office. It's important that we know the incentives and all of the things. And I mean, this is stuff that I'm still have to remind myself. I was talking to Emily today. I'm like, we got to relook at the fast start. I got to review it because that's not second nature to me yet. And then, this is why we have the cover photo and all the comments in the cover photo. This is why we update the announcements in our team page. These are out there so that we can be aware of what is going on and be able to communicate that down. And teaching people, go to the cover page and look at all the comments, go to the announcements and make sure you read through. And being prepared. So definitely preparing for all kinds of different situations, being prepared to have people go through detox, being prepared for people to be ready to run, and being able to lead them through the steps. And then the other thing I just wanted to end on was that you're not going to say, this is really particular to prospecting, but you're not going to say the wrong thing to the right person. And so don't let the law of timing limit you from talking to people, because when they're ready, they're ready. And like, for instance, with Emily, I wasn't like, hey, you need to do this with me. The light bulb clicked and she was ready. And that was really important. And we have talked, and she's like, why didn't I do this 3 years ago? I'm like, 3 years ago, I would not have been able to lead you. And I think that was really part of it. And so we just have to always know that we're not going to screw it up. When you're sharing from the heart, when you're sharing from that level of experience and motive of, look, this could be so great for you, then we're not going to screw up what we're saying to them. So share from your heart. So that is what I had. And I know Matt is prepared to add on.
What? I was supposed to add on to that? Great job, Elizabeth, as always. So I'm only adding a little bit tonight, I promise. Rochelle told me I talk too much. So I guess it's all about timing. So, the key here is with timing. I wore my red shirt tonight when I was figuring out what to wear tonight. So I'm going to wear my red shirt because I need to speak to my Reds out there, because, timing is, there's a lot of things that we glean along the way as leaders. Maybe we're good. We lean heavy on our natural skills, our natural talents, our natural abilities. But the art of timing is one that so few leaders spend a lot of time truly understanding and honing for themselves. And I'm speaking to the Reds out there because we're terrible with timing. We're terrible with this. We are people of action, and we see the right action, and this is the way it needs to be done, and we set to it. And sometimes we forget, kind of what Elizabeth alluded to, that timing is just as important. As a leader, it's not enough to know what you need to do or who you need to be engaging with to get it done, as much as or as equally as important as it is to know when the right timing is to do so. John in his book, he put a nice little graphic in there, and it's been used and tweaked and modified in different ways. But the key here is to say that the right action at the wrong time gets you this thing called resistance. And I've seen this play out. Organizations that have a lot of resistance to change and resistance to culture and resistance to vision casting that the leadership is trying to do, especially when they're trying to do a shift of vision for the company, they meet with all this resistance. And oftentimes the key there is to come back and say, listen, let's look at so what did you do? And Elizabeth did a great job listing these out. What was your understanding of the situation? What is your maturity of motive? What's your motive? Is your motive a good motive or bad motive? Do you understand what you're trying to achieve through this? What's your confidence that this is the right thing to do? Mm-hmm. Are you a decisive leader? Are you steadfast and confident in that that's the right direction you need to be focused on? What's your experience with navigating this type of change or this type of decision for your team? And then, she talked about intuition and preparedness as well in there. The key there is that when we look at all those things, a lot of times they're like, yeah, I had a great plan, and we looked it over, and the executive team, the Jules, whoever it is you're talking to, we came up with this great plan, and we said, this is how we're going to do it. And, it failed. Like we implemented it, and like 3 people showed up, and like 2 of them showed up because there was like freebies to get from it. And, the other person, they actually showed up by accident. So really nobody showed up, with pure motive. And so I don't understand what happened here. And then when we started poking the bear a little bit, people just got even more up in arms about it. And, almost always when you hear those types of statements being made, what you do is you go back and as leaders, you need to look at timing. Was it the right time for your team? Was it the right time to try to push your team past that comfort zone point? Was it the right time to completely recast a vision or change a direction from something that your team has been doing? Some of you will face that if you haven't already. When you decide at some point along the way that your team has reached a point where you're going to start holding your own book clubs or holding some of your own meetings, like that's a timing decision. If you make that decision too early, you're going to find yourself as a one-person show trying to hold down the fort, and it's going to be almost an impossible task for you to grow a business and do that at the same time. If you don't do it soon enough, right? Because timing is about perfect timing. If you don't do it soon enough, you might find people who are resentful, who think you become their leadership lid, who get frustrated because they want to branch off. They're tired of reading the same book. They're tired of having the same conversation. They're tired of hearing from the same people. So it's important as leaders that we understand this thing called timing, right? I talked to you last week, so I'm going to hit it again because some of you weren't here last week, and I think this is key. There are 4 chapters in this book that set the essential boundary lines that protect your success, your goals, your dreams, the things you're trying to achieve. And if you didn't write them down last week, you get to hear it again. So write them down this time. Write them down. Whew. You wouldn't know I'm from Southern Maryland sometimes. Anyhow, vision, chapter 4 talked about vision, your why, understanding, what you're trying to, why are you doing this? Listen, if you don't understand why, it doesn't matter if it's the right time or not. You got to know why you're doing what you're doing. Number 17, chapter 17, talked about priorities, the law of priorities, right? You got to know those priorities. I'm not going to hit these up too much again, but, the third post, if you will, that's protecting your boundary line, a square protection boundary line around your home, which is your successes, your dreams, your goals, it deals with the law of sacrifice, chapter 18. What are your non-negotiables? Where are you willing to sacrifice, and where are you not willing to sacrifice? Okay, and then that 4th one I touched on very briefly last week because I didn't want to steal the thunder from Elizabeth this week, but it is timing. It doesn't matter if you have the perfect vision, if you know why you're doing it, if you have all the goals spelled out, you understand how to prioritize everything from, yesterday to today to tomorrow, you just see everything as a process, right? It doesn't matter if you've defined what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not. If you've done those three things or those three areas successful, but you suck at this thing called timing, guess what's going to happen? You have a vulnerability. Obstacles, distractions, resistance, frustration will set in through that one vulnerable point. Timing is paramount, just as paramount as those other three areas that I talked about. So you have to spend time understanding this thing called timing. So how do you do it, right? We talk a lot, we throw all these fancy things out, and then, the thing I can't stand is when leaders, coaches don't come back and say, well, now you got to kind of help them understand where the breadcrumb trail is to get this thing called timing down. So how do you do that? Well, I'm going to give you one key word, and John uses it and is the master at it. And that is this thing called reflection. Spend time reflecting before any decision, especially major decisions. Spend time reflecting. Look at those areas we talked about. Do I really understand what I'm trying to achieve through this? Whatever it is we're going to do, whether it's a hard conversation with a team member, like Elizabeth talked about, hey, maybe she was prepared to launch and help Melissa do everything Melissa needed to do to be successful. But as soon as she got on that phone, she understood that no matter what she had intended that day, the timing wasn't right. And that is a mature leader perspective. When you can assess people, you can assess situations, and you can say, great idea, great action, not a good time. Mm-hmm. So reflect on it. Reflect beforehand, reflect during. Something John does very well, he will go into when companies reach out for him to speak, and I've kind of gleaned this from him when I speak now, is a lot of times they'll say, well, here's what we're facing, here's some trends in our company, and then they let people like John pick a topic. I mean, you're not going to tell somebody like John Maxwell what to talk on. You could, but it's like taking a smart man and trying to put him in a little bitty box. Not a good idea. His real talent shines when he gets to wing it. So, what he does is he gets up there. So he reflects beforehand. What kind of organization am I going into? What type of people? What is going on in that organization right now? What do they really need to hear from me to make them better when I walk away, to pour value and add value into them as an organization, and then to each individual person sitting in the seats that are listening to him? That's some deep reflection. But he does his homework and he reflects on it. And then he says, okay, this is what I think they need to hear. And then as he's speaking to them, he's constantly assessing and reflecting on it. He's watching their body language. I love it when videos are on. Some of you don't have them on, that's your prerogative, but I will tell you, I love it when videos are on, because you know what? If you can't see somebody, you have significantly degraded the communication channels when you can't see somebody. You can't see their body language, their facial expressions, their posture, all those little things that we don't take into consideration. They tell you a lot. Well, John looks at all that and he says, okay, I'm getting ready to drop a bomb on them. This is something they really need to hear, and it's going to help this organization grow. But he's watching them to see, are they ready for that bomb? Are they leaning forward in their seat when he kind of lays it out there? I'm about to tell you today who the number one secret to be better today than you ever have been anywhere in your life. And he waits for him to go and lean in. If they don't lean in, he knows it's not the time. They're not ready. Either I need to prepare a little bit more and get them a little bit more riled up, or maybe my message is so far off, I need to just start pulling from some creative content and go a different direction with this. But he's making sure it's the right time before he drops the bomb, so to speak. And then finally, John is a master at this as well. And that's coming back afterwards, sitting back in reflection and saying, okay, here's the action I thought I needed to take. I took the action. It turned out that it was the right time, or it turned out it was the wrong time. And very quickly, you'll know if it was the right or the wrong time, because people's body language will tell you. Their feedback mechanisms. If you have somebody on your team that is a chatterbox that will talk to you, you get off a call with them, and like for the next 45 minutes, they're messaging you about how awesome you are and how they love to hear from you, and you're so great, and they're so glad they joined your team instead of that other girl or guy. And all of a sudden that person, you just dropped a bomb on them, or you're trying to coach them along, and they stop talking to you. That's a sign of resistance to what you've put out there. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it means it may not have been ready. So how do you assess that? You look at that, you reflect on it, And then you come back to them and you become more keenly aware. That becomes intuition. Intuition is gained through experience, through putting yourself out there. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. And so if you want that intuition to be right, more times than not, you got to put yourself out there. So sometimes you're going to make the right call at the wrong time. It's okay. I'm here to tell you, I've done it more times than I can count in 20 plus years of military experience, and now in the civilian world, more times than I can count. I knew what we needed to do, but the timing wasn't right. And I still spoke because I'm a red. And as soon as I did, I realized almost immediately this was the right message at the wrong time. So now I need to backpedal here. I need to re-engage the team, rebuild that confidence and trust, or wherever there might be some faltering, and then wait for the right time, because it doesn't mean it wasn't the right thing to say, but wait for the right time. Now, everybody who's married here can understand the law of timing all too well. How many times have your spouse has irritated you with something? You've had a hard day, they've had a hard day, and you're like, you know what? This is the day I'm going to let them know about them daggone dishes stacking up in the dishwasher or in the sink, or unloading the dishwasher, or leaving their, shoes by the front door without putting them away. Whatever it is, all those little things, but you approach them and you hit them with it, and immediately it sets off a domino effect of badness. Because why? It wasn't the right time. We as couples spend a lot of time trying to figure out this thing called timing, but we don't do that with our team nearly enough. And so I guess to wrap it up is to say, timing deserves as much as your attention, if not more, because we're just not naturally good at this most of the time. It deserves as much, if not more, of your time as a leader to develop this skill set so that you can be a better leader, your team can be a better team, and you can continue to grow and achieve the goals that you have for yourself and your team. And that's all I've got to say about that tonight.
Thank you very much. I love that, all of it. And it's so, so true, all of the things. So let's stop this one, start a new one so we can do our discussion.